Hey everybody, earlier today on Twitter, some of the truckers I follow and that we follow each other, there was a picture of a truck that had a steel coil had come loose and rolled through the cab of the truck. They had to cut the top off to get the coil out. You'll see that on the very first picture of this video. And the conversation was about how dangerous a steel coil is. Now, I'm not going to deny that they're dangerous, but I will say this. A coil is no more dangerous than what you make it. If you don't respect the product, if you don't drive the load instead of driving the truck, if you don't secure it right, yes, it's dangerous. It's just as dangerous as hauling steel beams, not securing it right. It's just as dangerous as oil field pipe not being secured right. It's just as dangerous as that plastic wrapped lumber that's like wax paper, that's that really slick stuff. That's just as dangerous, folks. If you don't secure it right, yes, it's deadly. Yes, you got to take extra precautions with steel coil. You don't got to fear it, but you got to respect it and treat it right. So right here, this book right here, all the federal regulations, it'll tell you how to do a coil. Now there's some other things to take into account when you're securing a coil. So you got two methods of securement. You got direct and indirect. Now, if you run flatbed open deck freight, you should know what this is. And there's a formula to figure out how many securements to use for the weight of the commodity based off of this style of securement. The company I drive for made it really easy. They made these little cards right there. See that? That's for your direct securement. On the other side, indirect. Simple, right? So when you're doing a steel coil, it's always going to be indirect securement, which means that your securement goes either through or over the load. Now, because a coil is heavy, it's round, and it can be dangerous, I always use the direct method formula. And people say, well, that's overkill. But I tell you this, I've never lost a coil, never had one telescope, never had one shift. It's because of how I secure it. It's not because I'm super driver or anything like that. It's because I have a healthy respect for the coil. And I got my start with Maverick in flatbedding back in 2004. And they teach you their way, right? Got the Maverick way. TMC's the same way. Jordan Carriers, Boyd, they're all the same way. They got their way to do it. I'm telling you, Maverick and Jordan, they don't lose a lot of freight. They rarely ever lose a coil. So securing it in that same method has done me well over the years of driving. So I want to tell you this. One, I don't use 5/16 chains. I use 3/8 when I pull a coil. Now, some of you guys, the only option you have by your company is the 5/16. I'm telling you, you can't over-secure a coil. Throwing straps over the top, not required. That's a holdover from the Alabama coil certificate, which was ruled by the courts against the state of Alabama when they got sued over it, because it was interfering with interstate commerce. So if you want to throw straps over the top, that's great. Extra layer, that's good. So when you do a coil, this book right here tells you got to have some kind of friction mat under your coil pads, under your coil racks. So when you set your coil racks up, coil racks are 10,000 pounds a piece. It's a 42,000 pound coil. You need 5. You can't have 40,000 pounds of rack for a 42,000 pound coil. Got to put the 5th rack down, folks. Then you put it down, you put your lumber in it. Don't use the cheap pine lumber you buy at Lowe's for 10 bucks a board. It's going to crush, it's going to snap. When that happens, your coil's going to be loose and those chains aren't going to hold it. Invest the money, buy the good hardwood oak dunnage. So you get it inside your rack, right? And you chain it down tight, maybe throw a couple straps over the top, you're good to go. Something I do that's a holdover from Maverick is I take 4 of my 8-foot 4x4s and I chain them to the deck, build like a little bulkhead right in front, as tight up against the coil as I can get it. Is it gonna stop it if it breaks free? At a high speed, possibly not. But if you use enough securement, it's not going to come free. It might come loose and lean up against it like a wheel chock. That could be the thing that saves your life, folks. I'm telling you. So, yes, they can be dangerous. But if you respect them, they're not dangerous. Now, if you drive them like you have some sense, remember I said earlier, drive the load, not the truck. So there's an article that CDL Life and some other people published from a lady flatbedder out of Montana, and she talked about how dangerous a coil is. So everything she said in the article, yes, it's true, but it's also true of any other commodity of the same weight. So if you got a 45,000 pound load sitting on your trailer, No, you can't take off as fast. No, you can't turn as fast. And no, you can't stop as fast as a 15,000 pound load. And yes, a 40,000 pound or a 50,000 pound coil is going to be top heavy. And yes, it's going to make your trailer bounce and flex. Other commodities will do the same. That's why it's so important to drive the load, not the truck. See, so if you've got a 10,000 pound load of, say, water pipe, and it's maybe a short load, or maybe you've got a load of, I don't know, maybe 2 tires on the trailer. That's a lot more stable. Center of gravity's a lot lower. You can take curves a little quicker. You can stop a little quicker because it weighs less. You can accelerate a little faster. So don't let the psychology of the fact or the folklore out to a driver is that, oh, a coil's dangerous, it's going to kill you. Anything you put on the trailer not secured properly can kill you. If you do it right and respect the load, it won't. And you'll be perfectly safe and you'll be fine. So take into account, these guys that you see at the mills throw fork chains on a super coil and take off, stay away from them. Do your load checks. There's a reason that the FMCSA wants to do a load check in the first 50 miles and then do a load check every 150 miles or 3 hours throughout the course of the trip. Now, I'll admit this, if I've gone a couple load checks and I have not had to tighten or adjust anything, yeah, I'll push out the last few load checks. I probably won't stop at exactly 150 miles. But it's a good standard rule of practice. If I've got a suicide coil on the trailer, I'll probably do that load check a little earlier instead of later. But folks, you don't got to fear the coil, respect the coil. It's not this big scary boogeyman that you're going to haul, folks. It's perfectly safe.